Welcome back to another YouTube video. So this video today is the over 50s Fishing Masters Qualifier match held recently at Marston Fishery. So today's video will be my point of view, how I went about my day, what techniques I use and how I went about fishing it to put a few fish in the net. I'll also give you some insights on how the angler who went on to win the match and find himself a place in the finals, what techniques he used and how he went about fishing it on the day. I can do that because he was actually pegged right next to me, so I was able to watch him and understand the things that I probably should have done myself and how I probably could have caught more fish. So we've gone and drawn beach, peg 4 on beach. So plan of attack today is going to be just fishing out in front of me as normal, throwing in maggots on the top kit. 6mm pellets on the far bank, fishing a bomb. Then I've got my left and my right margins where I've got some sort of grass and reeds on both sides. So that's the plan of attack. Now let's get to it and we're going to catch a few fish. So we just had the yawl in and decided to start off on the bomb line. So just throwing in some maggots there on the short line. Going to prime that for a good half an hour. Keep the maggots going in and going to fire in some 6mm pellets on that far bank. Now right at the beginning, the actual carp, they had those fins out, tails up in the air already on the far bank. It was just alive with fish. So we was expecting just to start catching straight on the off. So just firing in some 6mm there over the top on the bomb line. Now one thing I have found when fishing on these pools recently, I've done a few matches, I call it the false sense of hope, mainly because you see these fish and you just think you're going to cast straight into them and your tip's going to go round straight away, but it just doesn't seem to happen that way. You've got to obviously build their confidence and you've got to get them feeding. Now as you can see, the angler on my left, he's just actually hooked into his first carp. We're only a couple of minutes into the match, so he's got feeding fish in his swims. I'm expecting also to have feeding fish, but it didn't really appear that way. It took me a little bit of a while to get my first bite. We're going to cast in again and just catapult some 6mm over the top. So about 20 minutes into the match now, and the angler on my left has already had 2 fish. And the only difference that I've noticed that the technique he's using a method feeder and I'm fishing a bomb. So we're both catapulting in some 6mm over the top and he's already caught 2 fish and I've only just, there you go, look, tip just went round and I've only just hooked into my first fish. So I am starting to think that maybe I should have made some micros up and I should be fishing the method feeder, but I wanted to fish the bomb. It's worked well recently and this is the approach I was going to take for the day. But like I say, the only difference at the moment was that he was fishing the method feeder and I was fishing a bomb, and he's caught 2 fish to my 1. So got a little bit of confidence now. Now I've got my first bite, first fish. Sometimes you get a little bit worried when you start seeing other anglers catching in a match, but there we go, we get his head up and we get him netted.
Hey guys, hopefully you're enjoying these free videos. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, please do go and subscribe to the channel. Click the subscribe button. It's free and it's easy and it only takes about 2 seconds. It's a massive help, more than you know. Also, don't forget to drop the video a like, give it a thumbs up, and at the end of the video, if you can spare 30 seconds, please do go and leave a comment. Just let me know what you like about the video. Let me know what techniques you use. But thank you for watching. Now let's get back to the main video.
So we get sorted, we get another 6mm pellet on the band and we cast the bomb out again on the far bank. It's not a big throw here on these pools, it's only about 20 metres, so it's just a gentle throw, just sinking the line there. Carried on throwing in some maggots on that short line. I don't know if you just noticed them, but I did have a carp just surface just a little bit further out off that short line. So, and there we go, look, tip went round before I could even pick that catapult up. And we're into another fish. But as you can see, angler on my left, he's also into a fish. And one thing I noticed that he was actually catching a reasonable stamp of fish. I would probably say easily the 4 to 5 pound mark off that far bank on the method feeder, and I think the fish I'd had so far were just a little bit smaller, so we are a little bit behind at the moment. So I'm just taking my time. I was making sure throughout the day I was just really playing the fish, didn't want to bully them, I didn't want to lose any. It was an important match, a qualifier, so every single one was going to count. So just take your time, just play this one. There we go, get his head up and we get him netted. That's another one in the net. So we can jump ahead a little bit. We're now about 50 minutes into the match. I didn't get another fish since the last one. So again, just still throwing the bomb on that far bank. My plan was to have come on the short line by now, but because I knew there was fish on that far bank and the angler next to me, he'd already caught 2 more as well since my last one. I knew the fish, that's where they were. But I'm still priming, still throwing in those maggots on that short line. But there we go, look, tip went round and we get another bite. So we are a little bit behind now compared to the angler on my left. He's already probably doubled my weight, if not a little bit more. But we get this one netted. Like I say, just taking my time with these. There we go, get him netted. But the stamper fish, for some reason on this side, on my peg, are definitely smaller than the ones on the angler on the left. And as you can see, look, that angler on the left is in again. So he had a steady run fishing the method feeder on the far bank. There we go, look, we get that one in the net. So back out again on the far bank, catapulting some 6mm over the top on the bomb line. So I have been on this line for a bit longer than I originally planned to do, but I wanted to give it, because I'd already caught a few fish and I've been getting plenty of line bites. Angler next to me was catching more regular than me. I decided to just stay on it that little bit longer. But there we go, look, tick went round and we're into our next carp. And this is how it went. So I caught a few on the far bank and then we're going to swap and come in onto the short line. Get this one in first. There we go, get his head up and we get him netted. So like I say, we had a steady run on that far bank, but it was a lot slower than the angler next to me. I decided that I've been priming that short line, so that's what I was going to do. But I think I gave it the far bank probably another 2 or 3 casts, and then I came in on the short line. So we put the bomb rod away and we get out our line for the short line. So I think I had about 3 foot of water in front of me there, just at the end of the nets, where I've been throwing in those maggots. So I just put 2 maggots on the hook. And like I say, just fishing a top kit length. And it didn't take long, it was almost within minutes. I mean, we were good, probably a good hour and a half into the match. But as soon as I went on that line, I hooked into a fish, but it didn't feel right. There was just something not quite right, and it was clearly foul hooked, and we just lost our first carp. But it didn't take long to get that bite, so I knew I had carp in the swim. Now, because I'd hooked that last fish that was foul hooked, I hooked it really quick and foul hooked it. This time I put a piece of sweet corn on. I felt like having a heavier bait, just something that anchored to the bottom, might be better, and it might prevent foul hooking a fish. Throwing in some maggots over the top. It didn't take long. It did take about 2 minutes to get that bite, but it was a clean bite, and this time it was hooked properly. But there we go. Get him up really quick, get him netted, and we catch our first fish on the short line. So I stayed on that short line for about another 15 minutes. I didn't get any more indications, no more bites, so I decided to swap lines. Now I did set up a waggler just in case. It'd be one of those things I would just fish if I was struggling on any particular line. So I did throw it out, and really within a couple of casts there, and then the float went under, and I hooked into a fish on the waggler. But again, this one just didn't feel quite right. It was a bit strange. When you're playing the fish, you just always know whether it feels right, whether it's hooked properly. I felt like it was foul hooked. So I was just trying to take my time with it, and it came off. So it was foul hooked, pretty sure of it. That's how it felt. But I gave this a go for about another 10 minutes, throwing the waggler out, but I didn't get any more takes. So about 2.5 hours into the match, decided to rotate again back onto the bomb. So one thing I've been doing quite often, or more recently, is to rotate my lines much quicker than I normally do. So I did stay on the bomb line probably a little bit longer right at the beginning of this session, but every time I considered rotating lines, I'd then get another bite and catch another fish. So I did stay in it a little bit longer. But there I am, trying to have a sandwich, something to eat. I was getting a bit hungry, a tip goes round and I catch another carp on that bomb line. The angler on my left, he was catching quite consistently. While I was on that short line, he was still catching on the far bank on the feeder. It wasn't a fish a throw. It was probably, you know, maybe every 10 minutes he was catching a fish, but it was a bit more, certainly regular than what I was. I did notice he'd also swapped to his pole line as well, top kit. I think around top kit plus 2 sections or thereabouts, and he did catch a couple of carp, managed to pick a couple off there. But mainly he was on the feeder, and that was where he was catching throughout the day. So we've got that one landed and we get another carp in the net. So we're about 2.5 or just over 2.5 hours now into the match, and I've got about 40 pounds in the net. I didn't get any more bites or any more takes on this line, so I'm now going to rotate and go into the margin. So now coming into the margin, I'd already put in a pot of ground bait and sweet corn on the left hand margin probably about 20 minutes before this, and I'd put ground bait and maggots on the right hand margin. So I'm just doing the same again. So like I say, ground bait and sweet corn on the left and ground bait and maggots on the right. So we pop that in, just turn the pot over, let the ground bait drop out, and we go straight over the top with 3 maggots on the hook. And it wasn't long, it was probably about 2 minutes. The carp just moved in really quick. Maybe they were already there on that first pot I'd put in 20 minutes before. But I went in 2 minutes and I got my first bite and I had fish on. So I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. This one took about 3 to 4 minutes to land. It was a decent fish actually, a proper margin fish. It was around the 4 to 5 pound mark. But there we go, look, we get his head up, tire him out and we get him netted. So sometimes these fish, they do take longer than what you think. You're playing them, then you net them, and then 3 or 4 minutes can quite easily go by. So always keep that in mind when you're playing fish. So we get the hook out and we get him in the keep net. So we caught that fish, so I decided to top up both sides, left margin and right margin. So left margin we've got the ground bait and sweet corn going in, and we've got on the right margin we've got the ground bait and maggots. So topping both of these swims up, and we're going to go back in again and we're going to catch a few more carp. So straight back out again over that ground bait and maggots on the right hand margin, and it wasn't long. It was probably again another about 1.5 to 2 minutes went by and we hooked into our next fish. So it was clearly the margin time, the right time of day to come in. I do remember having a conversation with my neighbour on the left who was catching quite well on that feeder. He actually said to me when he watched me catching, he wished he'd came in on the margin a little bit sooner, but he was catching quite well, nice and steady. But there we go, look, we get him netted and we get another fish in the net. So this time I decided to go onto the left margin, just give that right one a little bit of a rest. So this time we got sweet corn on the hook. And I literally went straight in, and it was probably 30-40 seconds is what I'm counting at the moment, and we hooked into our first carp on the left hand margin. There we go. Like I say, it wasn't long, it was around the 30 to 40 seconds and we had a bite straight away. The carp had come in on that ground bait and sweet corn. So it appeared throughout the day that sweet corn or maggots was working. And I've fished a couple of other matches recently and sweet corn has been working as a hook bait. So I think if I go and fish a match again at Marston's very soon over the next couple of weeks, late July, early August, I will be fishing sweet corn. But every day is different and we all know that, so it could be one day it's maggots, next day it's sweet corn, next day it's pellets, who knows. But there we go, we get him netted. A couple of attempts there, bit of a fighter that one, and we get him in, another carp in the net. So back out again, this time went on the right hand margin. So what I started doing in this last sort of hour of the match, if I caught a fish on the right hand margin, I'll then swap to the left. On the next one, I'd catch a fish on that, then I'll swap back to the right, and I just kept rotating these margins. Again, there we go, look, got a little bite, missed that one, go straight back in again. And this time it went under straight away and we got that one. So that I definitely had 2 or 3 fish in the swim on each of these lines. We started getting a reasonable run in the margin. And again, everybody else at this stage in the match were also fishing the margins now. So there we go, that one came in really quick. We probably came in with about 40 seconds, 30-40 seconds. It's strange how sometimes these fish can just come in really quick, get their heads up, and then there's others that take 3 or 4 minutes. But that one came in nice and quick. So there we go, another carp in the net. We're now got about the last hour of the match. I've probably got around the 65 pound mark. So I've still got a lot of catching up to do. Let's see how many more fish we can catch. So I went straight back out again. I tried the left hand margin for about 3 minutes. I didn't get any indication. So I then just quickly switched to the right hand margin. And there we go, look, we get another bite. And that's what I did. So I kept rotating the lines, but if I didn't get a bite on one of those lines within sort of 2 to 3 minutes, I would then go back over onto the other side. So back in again, and we get another carp in the net. Head up really quick, and we get that one netted. So we got that carp in the net, and this time we go back out on the left hand margin with a piece of sweet corn on the hook. Like I said, every time I caught a fish now in this last hour, if I caught one on the right, I would then swap to the left. Caught one on the left, I'd swap to the right. So straight in, look at that. We get a bite almost instantly with a piece of sweet corn on the hook, and we're into our next carp. I don't know if you can notice there, but on the left hand side, the angler on the left, he's fishing a top kit plus 2 sections. He's catching 1 or 2. He's not catching as much as me in the margins. So I started to think now, at this point, I might have a chance to catching him up. We get the hook out and we get this one in the net. So this last part of the match, it's starting to become a bit of a race. I quickly top up these lines, getting the ground bait, sweet corn on the left, getting the ground bait and maggots in on the right. Really quick, as quick as I can, so I can get out there and start catching a few more fish. So there we go, guys. We're now into the last 40 seconds of the match. Very quick summary. Started off long on the bomb line with 6mm pellets, caught a few fish, came short on the maggots, and we caught a couple there as well. It wasn't as good as I was expecting on that short line, but there we go, look, just got a last bite, last carp of the match in the margin. Like I say, we went short, then we came in on the margin, rotated between the left and the right margins, catching quite regular, get the all out.
Fish on!
Call fish on. Don't you just love it when that happens? You get the last bite, last fish, and you shout fish on. It's absolutely brilliant when that happens. The angler on my left, he caught 128 pounds. He went on to win the match, and he got himself a place in the over 50s Fishing Masters final. Guys, I ended up catching around the 87 pound mark. Not good enough. I should have gone on that method feeder. I should have forced myself to make some micros up. I didn't. That was my mistake on the day, to beat that angler on my left. But he did really, really well. I ended up coming around, like I said, the 12th to 15th out of 35 anglers. So not too bad. I was quite happy. Guys, I learnt a lot on this day. Hopefully you have too. If you haven't already, please don't forget and subscribe to my channel. It is free and it's easy and it only takes 2 seconds. If you haven't already, drop the video a like. If you can spare 20 seconds at the end, please do leave a comment. Let me know what you think and how you would have fished the day. Guys, tight lines, enjoy your fishing, and I'll see you on the next one.